Thanks everybody for joining. It really is quite a reunion today of all the old faces and all the people that we've been working with since 1984, which is a long time ago. When we started, we wrote the DOS Cashbook for Joey DeMaya. I remember her working with me, and we released it, and we used to sell 50, 60 of those a month for quite a few years, and we established a very strong market of 300 out there, which was in those days ACPAC and IUS. And then obviously, as time progressed, the Windows came out, and we went into Windows in 1996, which just shows you how long ago that was produced and how strong and how steady it's gone and how strong it is today, almost 26 years later. The web and the Windows sites are still growing. I mean, we had over 200 new sites in the last 3 years, 200 new sites in a market that's pretty saturated. But it's gone really, really well, and we now today have on-premise sites at 2,500, 3,000 registered users using it every day, with over 30,000 users. I'm now talking about Peresoft Cashbook, and I presume with a 99% share of the market in Africa, we're also referring to the Stage 300 market, which is also going very strong at the moment. And we're still getting quite a few sites every month. Obviously, 2012 came along, and Edith, I don't know if you remember Edith, she resigned, and she wanted to go back to Joburg because we'd all moved down to Cape Town. And that's when I decided I had to go and write an automatic bank recon, because Cashbook was still manual and people were still just entering. We had a very small RecXpress in those days, which I then enhanced. And today we have over 1,000 sites of RecXpress running automated bank recons, which is one of our flagship. We're very proud to have that product because it's got a huge future with coming with a bank feed soon and a few other features we've added. And then finally, we got screamed at by Sage 5 years ago saying, oh, we've got the web UIs and we need you to make the web UIs work. And we were one of the first developers in the world to actually finish the web UIs and have full-blown product of web UIs in 2020, which funny enough was a good time to release the web UIs because we had COVID arrive and people were locked away and not in the office anymore. And if they were able to simply run a program on their browser without installation, that was the answer. And our web UIs have been very successful in getting established in the market and been growing consistently. And you can see that from our graph here. This is a very simple graph of last year. And you can see each quarter, our web UIs increased quite well. 50 in the first, 38 second, 40, 46, and 54. I think the main thing to look at in this graph is the number of users that we actually also had on the web UI. So although we only had 50 installed and whatever, it was still 250 users, 230, really a lot of users, a lot of LAN packs were installed. And that just showed you how many people were logging in remotely and being able to log in easily and remotely. I think the best part of the web UIs, let me just go back there first before I go to that next slide, is that it was written by Wayne and Karita, and they did a hell of a good job there. And the number of issues we had with web UIs was minimal. A few printing issues, which when they changed their printing features, etc. But in general, it's been taken on very well. And the way it runs in the cloud is incredibly powerful. All the processing is done on the server, and because you're not logging into the server, the actual overhead was minimal, so therefore the processing was very quick and posting was the same, if not quicker, than on-premise. And there's certain features that run quicker on the web UIs, and that's the beauty of these of the Sage 300 architecture. Okay, so obviously we've had people giving me calls and saying, what's going on with on-premise and why are we being told it's not going to be used in the future? We had a few calls from, I won't mention any names, but a few people said, are they going to discontinue the on-premise? Are we going to still have only have web UIs in the future? And I think it was basically based on the fact that people wanted to introduce another product on the market. And you can see from this client, this is a slide, this is a comment I got. If you look at this comment, this was a comment I got from the TPAC conference where they did a presentation about Intact and the future of cloud-based computing. And you can see that it wasn't really an issue because Intact is only a few years old. You can't compete against a product like ours, which has been around for 40 years, and you built hundreds and thousands of features into the product. No other product can just walk in and just say, oh, just because we can throw a couple of fancy words around, you guys can now move into the cloud. So the sad thing is, though, the web UI gives you a complete cloud solution. It's just a private cloud, which is actually probably a better idea in the short term, definitely, because people just want to plug and play. They don't want to sit there starting to go to a different system, retrain their users, retry and get everything to work. So the web UI was a very simplified way of getting into the cloud. And I mean, we've been running our programs from the cloud for the last 3 years. And it might be a private cloud, which is also nice. And if you look at that comment, the guys were saying they didn't really want to move away from 300 just because they had a new name. And they stuck with the cloud. And you can see 300 is a powerhouse, let's be honest. It's got incredible features, and it's got just about everything. It can do just about everything. There's very few things it can't do. And with web UIs on the cloud, you can have your private cloud running without a seamless, it's such an easy transfer of your product into the environment. No installation required, logging in without a problem. The actual architecture we've used in the cloud is incredibly powerful and incredibly seamless, using JavaScript, MVC, and all those new features, new fancy technology. I think there's one person who's, can you just see who's not on mute? Okay, sorry, no problem. Okay, so I think the beauty of there's a few misconceptions about the cloud with Sage 300, and one of them was it was legacy software. I don't know how they can call it legacy when you've got these new features. The views that we've written weren't really changed because they're in the background, and all we had to do was change the interface, to change the UI, and that gave us a very solid base to work from. And the UIs are written in the latest technology, in the latest development toolkits around the world. So there is no ways it's called legacy. In fact, we are now starting to get more and more clients who are going on the web UIs and accepting this. It took, if you think we released the Windows version in 1996, and it only really took off in 2002. So, everybody loved DOS. I remember doing a major DOS upgrade for 2020. I mean, 2000, for 2000, a major DOS. Oh, we had to handle the new dates and everything else. And we did all that, and it was a bit of an overhype, but it certainly did help them carry on using DOS. But in 2003, everybody started saying, right, we've had enough of the DOS. Let's go into the Windows environment. And that's when the Windows environment took off. So that was 7-8 years after we'd released our first Windows product. So we expect the web UIs now to start taking off in the future. I'm not going to go through each of these features, but that is a very nice picture in front of you of the on-premise versus the web UIs. You can see the only difference that was changed was the actual UI, and of course via the internet. But if you look at the bottom bit, application views are the views we wrote in 1996. They're still working today. And they are the ones that filter the data to make sure it's clean. And then, of course, the SQL database is sitting there and hasn't changed. So that really was a very simple transition into web UIs, much easier than people realize. Of course, the development itself was complicated, and thank goodness I didn't have to do it myself. I could go to the golf course while I whipped and cursed at Wayne and Karita, but they seem to be still here, so it couldn't have been so bad. Anyway, so let's just give you a quick idea of our clients that were moving to other systems. And you can see the biggest move here was probably Pastel, mainly based on price. Okay, at the bottom of the graph, we had 34 clients disappear. Very small numbers, considering we've got 3,000 clients. And you can see how people just didn't move from Sage 300. Why would you move from a product that works beautifully? Why would you want to? The accountant does not want to start changing his world and having problems. He did not need that. He wanted to make sure that he could do his month end and get it done, balance it off and move on. He didn't want to sit there and worry about the figures. Okay, the top one was Intact. Okay, obviously a new product from Sage that was brought out in the last 2 years. We've only had 1 or 2 move and 6 move to Intact in the last 3 years, which is not very much. And one of them even came back. So that's an interesting stat. The other interesting stat, because it's from Sage, was X3. We had lots of people move to X3, 19, which was a big number in those days. And of those 19, 15 returned to Sage 300. So it just shows you, if you don't have the features, if you can't balance the books, and you don't know how to keep the client running, no downtime, they're not going to hang around. They're going to either move to another product if it doesn't work, or come back to ours. And luckily, we had 15 return, because sometimes what happens is they go off, that doesn't work for them, and they move to something else, to Xero, to Acumatica, and a few others. I don't even know the names because they never really entered my sales environment much. So we have had a few movements, but if you look at the numbers here, we're talking maybe 100 clients, not even, that have moved away from 300 in the last 5 years. Okay, so that's minimal, considering, again, we get a 99% return on software assurance. We have 3,000 corporates, businesses running 300. So that's been very, very good. So because of the market, I don't know if you've heard of TPAC. TPAC is a conference that is held in Canada, and they had a great turnout of 300 clients and 300 ISVs. And they decided that because of the strength still of 300 in America, I'll tell you why in a minute what's going on, just for 2 seconds. They decided they should hold a conference here in South Africa. So we are looking forward to March, where there will be a TPAC conference being held at the Mount Grace in Johannesburg. But we will also be there, and we'll be able to have a proper conference, all get together. We can then have a party, Aruna, and we can actually meet face to face for a change and have a couple of drinks together and enjoy ourselves. Cool. Okay, so should we go into the features? Right, so we're going to go into the features. What's going to happen is I'm going to just go through the features quite quickly with you. And we've added quite a few features to 20. Sorry, is there anybody else who wants to add their 5 cents before I move on?
Chat is clear.
Chat is clear. Okay, cool. So we've obviously added a whole bunch of features to 2023. There's 1 or 2 here that are more important than the other ones, but I think the first one, which was okay, let me go straight into the first one, which is the GL batch description. Karita, do you want to just explain quickly what you added here?
Oh, okay. So in CB options, you can set up your own batch description that will go to general ledger, and you can choose from bank ID posting sequence, bank code, batch list description with separators, and you can even put your own description in. And it's probably most useful if you choose our other new feature, which we'll talk about shortly, which is the post batches separately, so that you can see in general ledger batch list what your batch description is.
Yeah, I think just to add to you, Karita, I think what we did here was also the description we were sending to general ledger was not descriptive at all. Just gave you a posting sequence, which was not going to be enough for when you look at the batches and you want to post them, you don't know what they were contained. So now with this new feature, you can actually add your own descriptions in there, and it comes across in the GL list. Hey, am I right, Karita? It looks nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, cool. So then you'll come to your next feature, which is a major feature, I think. Okay.
Do you want to do that? You?
No, I want you to do that, and I'll just fill in.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we've added the option to post batches separately. So each batch will obviously be posted to general ledger separately. The Cashbook posting sequence will be the same for the range that you are posting. And then, yes, and then before you change this feature, you just need to make sure that you have transferred all your batches to GL, because they're sitting in those files posted already, not as post batches separately. Yeah. Okay.
The reason we added this was AR and AP, when they post a range of batches, they create separate batches, where Cashbook never did. It created one batch. The problem with the one batch is that you had different transactions and different batches that you wanted to keep separate. So we obviously let them now choose to post separately because we can't remove that without people being able to control that. So what happens here is it will post a batch, it will then release the resource, and this is how Sage works. And when they post each batch, they release the resource, which releases the locking of the database for a minute or a second, and then everybody else who's waiting to get the next batch number were obviously held up with a waiting to obtain access message, which should now disappear when you post a lot of batches. And that is one of the major features of this posting separately. Is it will create separate batches in general ledger, so you don't have to post each one individually. It will also add a different description to each batch, which is also nice now with the new batch description that we've put in. And it will release the resource for a second, so people can get on with their work and get, for example, if you were in batch entry and you hit create batch and somebody was posting, it would make you wait. Now it will release you. You'll get your batch ID and you can carry on entering the batch without any interruption. So this is quite a big feature that we've added. Okay, great. Any questions on that one yet? Okay, please feel free to ask anything while we're in the middle of it, because we like interaction, as you've noticed. Cool. I'm happy with this. Any questions yet? No. Okay. The next feature, again, is Karita, one that you added yourself as well.
Okay, I think your screen's frozen because I haven't got.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, no, sorry. That's probably my mind
problem.
freezing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So certain people asked for different fields to be transferred from AR and AP when we retrieve batches from AR and AP. So now we just give you the option of remittance ID, transaction reference, payment code. So you can choose between those and they will be updated to your Cashbook reference check field.
Brilliant. Okay. Right, this is just a web UI addition we added. We didn't have the optional fields in the web UIs. So we put the web UIs now in. You can actually edit your web UI, your optional fields in web UIs, and we can now obviously edit your optional fields in the web UIs. That's just an extra screen. We didn't have it in before. I won't harp on that one. Okay. Reversal. Okay. A more detailed description is added to your reversal when you do a deposit or single reference batch, because you remember you can reverse individual entries in a deposit or a single reference batch, and we weren't picking up a good enough description, so we did add that as well. So you now have a proper description in the reversing of a single entry line within a bunch of lines in your deposit or single reference batch. Okay. Improved EFT validation, Karita.
Yeah, so we just improved the messages so that they were, gave you a better idea of what was going wrong. So that was all we did.
Okay, cool. Okay, security groups. We obviously wanted to add some more security groups for the EFT auditing and etc., and also for the Cashbook backup system we've developed, which we'll explain in a few minutes. Okay, there's not much to explain here, just that we've added the new security features. Okay, RecXpress. Okay, RecXpress is developing a lot more. We've got new drill down, and okay, we'll go into each one. Okay, Wayne, you want to just tell them what you added here?
Okay, we always used to have a drill down in the on-premise, so we finished it quite recently. I can't remember which, but basically just allows you to view the whole line in your statement grid in a more flat view representation, making it easier to see all the fields, all the values. So it'll load a UI and give you all that line's data, more easily presentable.
Yeah, easily to see, because you don't have to scroll. You can just see it all in one page.
Yeah.
Perfect. Brilliant. Okay. Okay, this was added by me. And we're going to improve this in the future, and we're going to make it more powerful. And that is when you create a RecXpress batch and you've done the creating of the transactions, and now you want to post the batch, you didn't have a record of seeing on your summary screen if you'd posted the RecXpress to Cashbook yet. And I wanted to see that more clearly because I want to know if I had anything unposted and nothing, that was still not reconciled in Cashbook. So I made young Karita, sorry, Karita. I made Karita add unposted transaction count. I'm going to also get them to add this to the finder. So when you hit the bank, it will show you not just the name and address of the bank, but it'll show you this information in the finder to give you more idea of what you still got to post, what you haven't posted, etc. Okay, so that was quite a nice feature, I think. Gives you how many transactions still to post. Thank you, Karita. Okay, so this is a fancy feature Karita added as well. Hey, Karita.
Yes, because I think somebody asked for it, didn't they, quite a while back?
Yes.
How to match the variance that came from the bank statement to a matched in error transaction, a reconciled in error transaction.
Yeah, because sometimes you'd have an entry coming in the first month and you'd have a variance. So what you do is you'd reconcile the variance, but you didn't want to reconcile the other bit because that could have come through the next month from the bank. So what we do is we leave it half reconciled with the variance, and then the next month you can put up that same entry and reconcile that variance amount to the bank transaction that came through the following month. Again, most of these features, besides 1 or 2, come from end users and dealers asking for them. So please don't hesitate to add to the enhancement forum, or even now in the end of the session, ask us for more features and we will see if we can put them into the next PU or next release. These all come from you guys, most of them. Okay, this is the actual variance again in the web UIs. That one was on the on-premise, and that's on the web UIs. So what I'm saying here basically is we do everything now in both versions. So we're not going to just add to on-premise or only onto the web UIs, excepting the bakXpress, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, way more. But we add them to both in together. So all the features go together, and you can see we're doing it on purpose because we don't want to stop on-premise. That's a very important part. We don't want that to stop. On-premise is still used extensively. If you think we've only got 300 web UIs out there, of the 3,000, we've only got 10% on web UIs. So we can't afford to lose that clientele. Okay. Now this is a interesting one. This is one I also made them add. When you do a bank recon and your transaction in Cashbook is pulled in from the bank statement, that transaction will always be inclusive. There's no ways it can be exclusive. It's always going to be a total amount. If you've got a 10 rand transaction or 100 rand and you've got VAT on that or inclusive, the 110 rand will come from the bank, not the 100 or 115, depending on how much is VAT. And what was happening is sometimes we'd have the tax inclusive flag would be off and it will be exclusive. And when you post that, the amount that goes through will have a variance. So I've made us now check the entries in the bank recon to make sure that they're always only inclusive. And this is quite a situation that can happen in when people post batches. We had a few clients that post a batch for R1 million, and all of a sudden we go through 1.15 million. And they said, where's that come from? They said, oh, you had the tax inclusive flag off. Oh, and then they have to reverse that, and their VAT would be wrong, and it was a nightmare. So by doing this, it prevents this from actually happening. Okay. Okay, this is the same thing in the web UIs. Okay, this presentation, when I flick through the screens, is available for you to download. If you go look at your invitation, you'll see at the bottom it says, please download the presentation. Yeah, that link is updated if we've changed anything on the web. Okay, so we did change something very small here, which was we removed the default bank in RecXpress because you'd go in, you've got 20 banks, it always goes to the default bank. So we allow the user now to say load the default bank or don't load the default bank. Because obviously when you go into RecXpress and it loads the default bank, it loads the whole spreadsheet, the whole UI, and that wasn't necessarily a very efficient way of doing things. You might want to choose a different bank, so it always loaded the default bank. So we took that out and said the user can choose if they want to load the default bank in RecXpress. Cool, that's RecXpress. Some small enhancements, but we will show at the end of this presentation, there's a big enhancement coming to RecXpress. Okay, Here we go with EFTXpress enhancements. So we're going to go straight into that, and this is where Wayne and Karita can explain this to you, because this is a feature we've added. Who's going to do it?
Wayne.
Yeah,
Wayne.
okay. So basically what we've done, we've added the feature where the user can set up where they want the EFT file to be delivered to and what method they want to deliver it. So if they had to set up, for example, in that graphic there, keep it as local, it'll work as it always did, whereby the file would be created. The user would then manually upload the file to where their bank is expecting it. If they choose FTP or SFTP, which is secure file transfer using secure socket shells, it's the latest in encryption, totally safe. We would now, all we need is the valid credentials to be entered on the screen in EFT bank codes. And as soon as you create that batch, save it and post it, we'll deliver the file to that destination and the bank will automatically pick it up. That's all there is to that.
Yeah, which is very nice, because that means it's secure and people can't see it. And also the bank will then retrieve it without you having to import it physically yourself, by going into your business banking or whatever and actually logging in. And this is a very nice feature. It saves you having to go near logging in and actually importing it yourself. What will happen is once it's retrieved, the bank will then send back an error report or an acceptance report, which we can then process and tell you which entries are wrong, and give you the option of either posting the batch with the errors or getting rid of them, or fixing them and then recreating the batch. Okay, so that's a very nice feature. This is what we're going to probably be doing with us RecXpress in the future as well. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay. Okay, the file name itself. This is the encryption, Wayne. Sorry, go for it.
Oh, okay. Should I just start with the file name? So the
yes, go for it.
Yeah, so a lot of banks now are wanting dates and times and certain codes in their file name. So now we let you set up your own file name with we've given you lots of different options with dates and times and optional fields that you can set up with whatever you want in there, like maybe client IDs and all that information.
Excellent. Yeah, it saves us having to do anything. It's actually very important, this, because the banks are getting more and more particular about the file name that you're sending. Okay, cool. And then the PGP is the encryption, Wayne?
Yeah, okay. So along with the tightening of securities from the bank point of view, a lot of banks are requiring clients to encrypt the files, even sometimes on top of hash code in them. So the most common worldwide encryption is PGP encryption. So we allow the user here to set it up. You can even generate the keys from that UI there. They'll set it up with their own password, get their own key, and what EFT will then do is, for example, you enter the batch in Cashbook, it will create the EFT file, it will hash code it, it will encrypt it with PGP, and it will deliver it to the SFTP destination, all fluidly in one click, basically.
Brilliant. Yeah, very powerful. Okay, there's the web version of the same file. That's on-premise and then the web itself. You can see the similarity between the two screens. It makes it very easy for the user to go between the web and the on-premise version. Okay. Okay, this is a very small one we added. We added the EFT clearing of the audit trail. And I think we left that out by mistake. I don't know.
Well, we used to, when you printed it, we used to say, do you want to clear it? So now we've moved it to the clear Cashbook transactions, and we've also given it a security setup.
Brilliant. Right, this is our new product. Well, it's not really a new product. It is a new product, but it's not a new product. It's built into Cashbook on the web UIs only. Okay, and the reason why it's only built into the web UIs is because we would assume that on-premise you'd have access to the server and you would be able to run the backup from the server yourselves. So, but when you're on the web UI, you're so far away from wherever it is, you want to be able to do a backup, but you can't because you're in a web UI. So you'd have to log into the server, go to your backup, log into the SQL, even if it's on a remote desktop, still do a backup from outside. And people would be too lazy, they wouldn't want to do a backup, and they just post. Right, Wayne, do you want to just go through what we've done here?
Yeah, okay. So it's quite a simple new program to begin with. I think there's just, well, there is just 3 UIs, basically giving full power to the user to maintain their data integrity by setting up and enabling automatic backing up of the entire database, obviously including all the modules, not just Cashbook, separated or set it up per major processes, like a single posting, which is from, posting a single batch from batch entry or batch list, obviously a range post, a range reversal whenever you clear your Cashbook, and obviously GL creation. So in this UI, you would enable it per user, per Cashbook, and you could set up a default description there, and some other options which I'll get to now. If you put a default description in there and you allow the backup to continue, that's the description that goes through to SQL, to the SQL server log, and that's the description we'll use to identify your backup later if you need to restore. The other option there I quickly glossed over is the confirm. Sometimes if you enable automatic backup, it might be a scenario where the user doesn't want to necessarily back up at that point, it's just in a quick post for some reason. Then you would require them to confirm. They can say yes, no, or cancel, and maybe skip the backup just at that single one incident. All interaction, all the setup, everything to do with the backup process, whether the user accepts it or denies it, or if it fails, its successes are all written to our backup audit file. And what's also nice in that screen, there you go. There's the backup setup audit. And what's also nice in that screen for the posting and range reversal, you can select to include the posting sequence or the batch ID and the batch description to build your backup description, and that'll send it through to the SQL server log.
Okay, so here's your printouts of your audit trail and your setup. Am I right, Wayne?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Correct.
This particular report will show everything you've set up for the user. And then the other audit report will actually show all interactions every time the user denies, accepts, cancels, and also even when just the backup is run, we write an audit record with the backup ID.
Okay, and that's what it looks like when you look at your list of backups.
Yeah, so this is the second working UI, which actually is separate from the automated backups. The user can go into this UI at any point in time if they feel they need to do a backup and just hit backup now. Type in a custom description there, and you can also look at the history of all your previous backups by date range and for any particular user.
Cool. And then this is the audit trail, isn't it? Yeah, this is the backup audit trail.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, cool. And we have added in the posting batch list we show the postings. Here's the actual backup running in your posting batches. So you can see at the bottom there, it's got a backup database and the description you've wanted to create for that backup. Okay, and the message, do you want to do a backup? Now, I think why we said to you if you want to confirm or not the backup is you might want to do a backup before you post 20 batches or something, or the morning's batches. So you wouldn't want to back up 20 times. You'd only want to do one backup and then do all the different postings, and then you've got a backup covering all the posting functions. Okay, so that's why we have a confirm there. Okay, okay, right. Let's just go back there. Any questions before we go into the new features of what's coming in the future?
I just want to mention I have activated Q&A, so you can ask a question. Sorry, the chat doesn't seem to be available for everyone, so I've activated the Q&A option, and you can ask a question. Apologies.
Thanks, Nat. Yeah, we have got all the the guys out there. Well, I'm sure we're all pretty clued up on Sage 300. So I don't expect many questions yet. I think people want to use it first, see what they've got, and then see what else they think would be nice to have or whatever, and then we'll get a couple of questions. Otherwise, the one question we did get when we did show the backup before was how do we do a restore? Well, obviously, the restore has to be done when the database is not being accessed by anybody. So we don't have a restore, automatic restore. I think that's a good idea because people can restore, and then the admin guy doesn't know they've restored something, and that can be quite dangerous. Okay. The other question we had with backup processing is why didn't you put it into on-premise? And again, it's the same reason why I mentioned earlier, is that you're on the server normally on-premise, and you wouldn't want to run a backup. You're already on the server, so why not just get admin to run the backup from the server itself? If we get a lot more requests and people say, no, we want the same program in on premise, we can always consider putting it in. Most of the work's done. The views have been created, so it's just a matter of creating the on-premise UI. Okay. Right. Future roadmap. Okay. And Wayne, this is our future roadmap for RecXpress. Am I right?
Yeah. Auto downloading bank statements.
Yeah. Yes. When I saw Wayne doing the EFT, I realized that it's probably going to be better for RecXpress bank feeds, because the problem with the bank feed is every bank has a different bank feed. Every bank expects you to log in. They also don't have all the formats available in the bank feed. They have a whole bunch of legal requirements, and we were really going nowhere with bank feeds. We'd phone the bank, hi guys, can we do a bank feed? No, we're still busy. We don't have a proper login yet. The one that was being produced by somebody else was not really doing a proper bank feed. It was retrieving it from the screen, so you wouldn't have all the transactions. All the fields we wanted, and all the transaction codes were missing, and a few things were missing. So we thought, how can we do a nice automated bank feed? And what I thought was, what we can do is that a lot of banks now deliver the bank statements to you. So what you do is you give them a host IP address and the security, and they actually log in via the bank, and the bank sends a file into that particular path that you've given them. And what we're going to now do in RecXpress is we'll pick up that path automatically, okay, and retrieve the transactions into a temporary file. The temporary file will be maintained every day. So what you can do is you'll be retrieving transactions automatically day after day. The biggest thing we have with a bank feed is if you don't do your reconciliation on the same day, you're going to bring in transactions for the next day, which we don't want. So if you in February and you're doing your recon for March for February, but you're in the second week of March, you don't want to retrieve March's transactions into RecXpress yet, because you still want to close off your year and finish your February. So what we do now is we will retrieve the transactions into a temporary file automatically. So when you go in, it just retrieves the transactions. When you want to now put them into RecXpress, you'll be able to choose a date range. And that date range will be, for example, you'll have all these transactions retrieved automatically for February and March, but you want to only retrieve February. So what we'll do is keep a record of when you last retrieved. You can then choose your date to go till the end of February. It then pulls it straight into Cashbook without having to worry about importing it again from the file, and it'll be seamless. And that's how our bank feeds will work in the future. The beauty of this is that you don't have to depend on the bank logging in for you, because you can also get somebody else to download the statements, put them into a file, into a folder, and then just tell RecXpress to look for that folder, and then it will automatically retrieve transactions from that folder. And so therefore the person who's downloading the file from the bank doesn't, the person who's retrieving the file does not have to have security access to the business banking file folder, which often you don't want to give them. They just want to do the RecXpress itself and do the recon. So it will be seamless, and it will also not duplicate. It will be much easier and it's so much more automated. We're finding that most banks are struggling to keep up with the bank feed. Their technology is still catching up with that. And again, like I said, it's because of legalities and so many different statement formats. It's just so difficult for the banks to actually do that automatic bank feed like people want to think it should work. I don't think it would work properly, because we've got 200 banks. There's no ways 200 bank feeds are going to work. It's just too many. And we don't have access to those banks. It's clients' banks. So we don't know what they're doing. I think there's only one bank feed now at the moment that seems to work, and it doesn't transfer all the transactions. So we're finding that this is the way to go, and this bank feed is just as seamless. Like I said, the banks now will send a statement to your server automatically every morning, which is very useful. And they are now going that way as well. And when you're dealing with corporates and big companies, you don't want people logging into banks. You want this to be separate. And this way works just like a bank feed and more control. I think this is the way to go. It's very exciting. I mean, we've got 260 formats. So with this feed, we'll only have one format per bank, which the bank gives you. And they say, Bob's your uncle, isn't it? Really, it works. What a pleasure. Okay, so that's going to come out soon. We're busy with it right now. Okay, Karita, your PJC, we're doing the PJC at the moment, hey, Karita?
We're doing the PJC for Cashbook entries.
For UIs, web UIs.
Yes, yes, because
Okay.
obviously on-premise is done, yeah.
And that's why we say there's a big future for the Sage 300. There's no doubt there's a big, strong future for the Sage 300. Okay, Azar, your turn.
Okay. I'm Azar QA. We at Peresoft take pride in the support we provide for our clients, not just through our forum, but also in our in-depth help documentation. As head of the help department, I now ensure that the help is a constantly evolving source of documentation. As you can see here, we have all our resources available for you through our help in the relevant topics. We will keep updating. And also, if you have any requests on documentation, feel free to ask and do not hesitate. Thank you.
Exactly. And you've done a lot of PPTs, haven't you?
Yeah, lots of PPTs,
Lots.
just to help the users understand the product better as well.
Excellent. Yeah, so any requests you want and more documentation on certain features, please get hold of Azar. Please let him know, because he's keen to add as much as he can, and he's doing a great job, and he's been doing it now for a couple of months and getting that, exactly what you need. He's getting an idea of what people need and the depth. And our help now, everything's online. We don't have separate help for on-premise. It's all the same. When you press F1 now on-premise, it goes to the web help. So when you add more help, it's added within a few days. It's already on the web.
So I'm just busy in a
available for
meeting.
the client. Sorry. So that's a very powerful feature that we're doing.
Thanks, bye.
And we want guys to comment. We want people to say, listen, I don't have enough information on RecXpress, for example, how to do rules. So we can then give you a PPT. Azar will do a nice PPT for us, add it to the help features, maybe even a video if necessary. And we want to really give as much documentation as possible, which you can then give to your end users. We don't tell the end users, so it's up to the dealers and the solution providers to let their users know that they can download PPTs. And we've even got them in Corsa at the moment, and we don't have any other languages that we can handle, but I'm sure we can try. But we are finding the Corsa people, the Corsa translations are also helping people, because their first language is not English. So it's giving them a good overview of the product in something they can relate to better, and we're doing that as well. So if you want feedback on that and you want more info, please don't hesitate to contact us. I find that excellent. Thank you, Azar. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. That is the end of our presentation, and we've just gone past 11, so that wasn't too bad at all. I don't think it was too boring. I hope it wasn't. So we'd love some questions or any comments on right through the whole thing. We'd also like a feedback on TPAC. Can we have it? Do you have a poll? Were you able to
Yeah,
create
I'm gonna do it now.
Okay.
I'm gonna sorry.
Yeah.
QB.
How many people joined our presentation?
I was about 24.
Okay. So we'd have to just send it to the other people who didn't join or had
So I've
other
posted
meetings.
a question there.
Okay.
You're welcome to respond. If you can't see it, please do let me know. Teams can be a bit iffy.
Yeah, we'd like to know if people want to come to TPAC and have a conference. I think it'll be great. Any comments on that? Anybody want to talk? Please don't hesitate to talk. I love
Bobby, it's Kelly here. I just want to say that that in 2020, I put in. I think you actually even dialed into my customer because we had some problems in the beginning that we had a problem with, well, an AW Cape customer, but they are using the web screens, and they actually, even now that they're all back in the office, they still use the web screens because they actually love it. They prefer the web screens to the normal premise, to the on-premise, which frustrates me in a way because I know on-premise better than web screens, but I'm just saying that they absolutely love it. So thank you.
Appreciate that, Kelly. That's nice to hear. It really is. And how do they find the transition from on-premise to web screens?
Well, they didn't have remote desktop. So when COVID hit, they were all at home. And so sometimes they would have a problem, but they were using VPN access. So, I mean, the old Sage on-premise over VPN, you can only imagine how slow it was. So when we put in web screens, they were quite excited, and actually they took to it pretty easily. I think it was such a relief that it was now faster, because the old one was really, it was so slow trying to do it over VPN.
And I think, because what happens with VPN, what happens with a remote desktop, is when you log into a server, everybody's taking up the resource of that server because they're on the server.
No, they didn't have remote desktop. That was the problem. They didn't. So they were working on programs on their PC. It was something that normally takes 10 minutes would take them an hour. So they were working till all day and night. So that's why the transition was really, really easy.
Yeah. And the web UIs load nicely. They're pretty consistent, and posting is very strong, and processes are very good. Thank you, Kelly.
No, Thank you. Only a pleasure. Thank you.
See, because it's amazing that. Sorry, I have to comment about Sage here, because Sage begged us to write the web UIs. We wrote them, we got them working beautifully, and then Sage disappeared. I'm sorry, that was a bit disappointing, because it is a huge advantage to go via web UIs, because as you say, you can go VPN, which is terribly slow, or you can go even remote desktop, which is expensive. You know what I mean? Because you have to have users and all that stuff. Where with the web UIs, you don't have to have anything. You just have to have a browser, and you log in. It's that simple. No downloading of programs, nothing. You just log in. Because again, the technology we're using in the web UIs is it's the latest. It's the latest technology. It's definitely not old. It's the absolute latest. And they chose well. So we need Sage. Hey, Craig, we need you guys to start doing some promoting there on this web UI stuff. Okay. We need some action. I think if everybody gives Sage a hard time, we might get some action. Have I ever not given them a hard time? Oh dear. Poor old Jeremy always used to get me giving him a hard time. Okay, great. Any more feedback? That was lovely. Thank you, Kelly. I like that. That was really cool. Yeah, is that it? Come on, guys. Come on. You're much more chatty than this. I know you all well. Make a bit of noise. No noise. Okay.
Bob, I'd like to add, with regards to what Kelly just said, the learning curve going from on-premise to the web, people shouldn't be scared of that curve, because it's almost identical. We've kept the UIs as close as possible as we can to the on-premise, and the whole foundation of the web UIs are the Sage ACPAC, our views, which sit on the server, which we haven't changed for the web releases. So it can be something to look forward to. It's not a big learning curve at all.
No, I agree, and easy to install. I find it very easy.
Yeah, one of actually our easiest install so far, because there's no ActiveX. It's just actually copying files into all the right places, and you just restart the servers.
Yes.
But you log into on-premise or you log into the web screen, you're having the same user interaction, as close as possible, the same screens. We even did the scroll bars, which we were the only ones to do. not a lot of time wasted for users getting into the web screen.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's a major upgrade and huge feature to 300 to give it a future perfect. I call it future. It gives us a new life.
Absolutely, and even from a cosmetic point of view, like Kelly hinted at there, the users go back to the office and now they actually prefer the web screens than the on-premise, even though they are back at office. It gives it that new modern look. It does feel more future-proof, and it actually is improved in a lot of aspects in terms of speed.
Correct, and they're also adding like the scroll buttons that we've added, and they're also making the Finder more friendly. And eventually we're going to have the grid being able to scroll more friendly as well, where they're busy working on that. That's a huge job. But when I did the Finder, I was doing the Finder just a day or two ago. If you expand the Finder, you get more records in the Finder. You can scroll backwards, you can scroll forwards. So we are getting to a point now where it will be almost the same as on-premise on the scrolling, which was a bit of a bind before. We like the buttons going left and right now. The scrolling is back now. They've put in scrolling buttons in the latest versions. And that's why it's a good idea for everybody to keep their clients up to date. I've got some clients sitting, oh no, we've got them on 2020, 2019 still. No, I think you must persuade them to get to 2023 and go up there. You know, a lot of our upgrading today is done based on the UI, and not really too much is being put back in the view. Which is a good thing, because the view is the one that filters the data. The view is the one that writes the data to the database. So if we can keep the data clean, which is what the view does, is fantastic. It just keeps it more controllable. Here's an example of I'll just put this slide back. Don't worry about the comment on the right. But on the left, if you look at the slide, everybody can access the same servers from the different on-premise or web UI, and I mean, I think that's quite unique in the industry, where you can use both to the same database. So I find that unique, and I think this is another slide I like about the web UIs. Is again on the left, it tells you why the views are so clever, and the protection, years of development. I mean, we're talking years of development, years and years, and a true 3-tier architecture. And you can see it from that picture. You show a client this and you tell them that's legacy. That's not true. It's just not legacy at all. And one of the other features I think I like about on the web UIs is you set it up once, and the user can log in without a new installation, without anything being changed. So you do one install, it takes you whatever hours or two, and no workstation setup, nothing. I think that was a nice feature, Kelly, is that you go in and you can just log in wherever you are, even in the office. Am I right? It just makes sense.
It was superb, and I mean, all they needed to do was send the people, set up the user, and send the people the URL. So from that point of view, it's very, very easy.
Yeah, and again, it's because of the development tools we're using. We're using JavaScript and we're using all the, the MVC stuff. I know MVC, probably have heard of it. It's a development environment that we've got from Microsoft, and it's a beautiful environment to work in. And it's the latest. It's definitely future perfect. Definitely. It's a pity. Sorry, I'm going to criticize Sage a bit here, because I was a bit disappointed with their advertising and their marketing. It's a pity they've never promoted this. Never. I find that, I would use the words sacrilegious. I don't want to get too cross. Excuse me, but they've never promoted these web UIs, and they are incredibly powerful. I only use them as well. I only use web UIs. So, Kenny, any enhancements, any ideas you want to improve them, please. We love it. We love, we built 40 years of software, not from just me and my staff. It's come from the user. It's come from you. We're 40 years down the line because of you, not in spite of Bob. I get my point. Great. What a lovely presentation. I enjoyed talking to you guys. Really did.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, guys. We'll do another one or two. Yeah, thanks. Thanks,
Thank you for your time. Cheers. Bye.
Pleasure. Thank
Cheers,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.